Okay, good morning and welcome back. So we're going to do back to the textbook exercises today. So we're going to stick with chapter 4. I think this is the last exercise in chapter 4 yet. And so we'll finish up chapter 4 today. And we're going to do example 4.8 in your textbook. Okay, so you can go ahead and go to the example 4.8 section. And you can open up the example 4.8 Word document. And so also this one, it's relatively short, and I made an extra credit that goes along with it. So if you look at the next section, after example 4.8, it is extra credit DEA. And so this all goes along with the one we're about to do. The extra credit, we might have time to do it. I'll do as much as we have time to do in class. But to finish it, if we don't finish the extra credit, you got to finish it on your own to get the extra credit. But we might have time to do it after class, or not after class, in class. So we'll do the main assignment first, and these are just kind of extensions of the main assignment, and so we'll get to as many of these as we can. But if for some reason we don't finish all the extra credit 3 questions, then you'll have to finish it to get the extra credit, and the extra credit is just going to count as one assignment. And so if you missed an assignment, or even if you haven't, I'd recommend doing it because you can't get more than 100%, but it's always good to have extra assignments, and a lot of students have missed them. So I'll explain that once we finish example 4.8, but there is an extra credit assignment that goes with this one. All right, so we can open up example 4.8. Okay, we can open up the hospital DEA Excel file. Okay, let me read the little description for this one. Okay, so we're going to use a technique called data envelopment analysis, and that is a method that can be used to determine whether a university, hospital, restaurant, or some other business or firms operating efficiently. And so basically we get a benchmark metric, and we compare all the other ones to the benchmark, and those that are at the benchmark are efficient, and the ones that are not or below the benchmark are inefficient. They're not using the resources efficiently. So that's the idea here, and you can apply this technique to really any type of organization where you have inputs that go into outputs. There's no profits involved here, but the efficiency is important. Okay, so example 4.8, DEA in the hospital industry. Consider a group of 3 hospitals. To simplify matters, assume that each hospital converts 2 inputs into 3 different outputs. In real DEA, there are typically many more inputs and outputs, but we'll assume in this hospital, input 1 is capital, which is hundreds of hospital beds. Input 2 is labor, which is thousands of labor hours used in a month. And the outputs are output 1 is hundreds of patient days during month for patients under 14. Output 2 is hundreds of patient days during month for patients between 14 and 65. And output 3 is hundreds of patient days for patients over 65. So the youngers and the children, the main population, 14 to 65, and then over the 65 age. So the inputs and outputs for the hospitals are given in the table and in the spreadsheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to determine which of the hospitals is efficient in terms of using its inputs to produce outputs. So if all the inputs produce efficient outputs, like it's a 1-to-1 ratio, then these hospitals are efficient. Okay, so if we go to the spreadsheet model, here's what we got. We're going to have 3 hospitals, and these are the inputs, the capital and the labor, and these are the outputs, the patient days for the different groups, 1, 2, and 3, for each of the hospitals. All right, and we'll determine the objective here is to see what the hospital's output value is, and if it's efficient, we're going to normalize it to be 1. So that means that any hospital that gives us an output or an objective value of 1 is going to be 100% efficient, like it's a decimal term. And then any hospital that's less than 1, that's going to be a little bit less efficient or inefficient. Okay, and so what we'll do here is we're going to do this one, and then we're going to use the same kind of template to do the extra credits. And so we're going to kind of use this. We're going to kind of use this, save it, and then we'll save a different copy to do the other exercises, because I think it's a lot easier just to use the template than to start from scratch. All right, so we're going to use this for multiple exercises, and so really the best way to do that is to not do range names, because if we do range names, it won't know the name when we change the titles, and we'll just kind of, there's not a whole lot of ranges in the solver, so we're going to jump the range name step because it saves time when we do multiple exercises on the same spreadsheet. Yeah, so let's go ahead and start. All right, so there's a nice little video on data envelopment analysis if you want to look at that. We'll start doing example 4.8, DEA in the hospital industry. So step one, is let's note the inputs, decision variables, objectives, and constraints. Right. So remember this. We haven't done this for a couple weeks because we had the spring break, and last Monday we did something a little bit different, but we're familiar here. All right, so the inputs, well, these say inputs, so these must be inputs. So inputs here for each hospital and for each input, this whole range is inputs. That's going to be light blue. All right, so technically the outputs are inputs in our sense. So this whole range, these numbers, light blue. We're going to decide the unit cost of the inputs. That's technically the decision variables. So that means that this area be, actually, you know what? I'm trying to think if this is. Yeah, I think it, because I know we're going to have the other exercises with different, like there's more than 2 inputs sometimes, and less than 2 outputs, and more than 1 entity. So I know we're going to, for the extra credit, we're going to be cutting and pasting, which is going to mess up the colors. So you know what? we're going to skip the coloring of the inputs, and we'll note the objective. But for now, let's just, yeah, I'm going to put this back to where it was. All right, so you can leave it. It doesn't make a difference, but I think it's easier just to leave it white for now. Okay, but I do want to note the objective, which is right here. So B20, the selected hospital output value, which is what we're going to try to maximize, get it as close to 1 as possible. So B22, let's highlight that yellow for the objective. Okay, and we're going to have a couple constraints. We want to turn our inputs into 100% outputs, but we can't turn inputs into more outputs. Like this If you have 10 here, they can only be 10. The most it can be is 10 on the output side. So we can't have more inputs than outputs. We can't gain outputs out of inputs. There's no like technological growth here or anything. So we got to say that the input costs have to be greater than or equal to the output values. So if you put a inequality here in C14, a greater than, and also in C15 and C16. Okay, so one constraint area that we're going to specify in solver is the input costs have to be greater than or equal to the output values. And also, this constraint is we're going to make the input costs normalized to 1, and that way we know that if we get an output value of 1, it's efficient. If we get an output value of less than 1, it's inefficient. All right, so just put a 1 here in D19. Yeah. All right. So leave the inputs and the decision variables uncolored if you want, and the constraints are here. The input costs are greater than or equal to the output values, and the input cost has to be equal to 1, and this is our objective. Okay, so I think that's how we need to set this up. There. Okay. Okay, so step 2, because I know that we're going to do this with multiple exercises and problems, let's skip the range names because the range names won't do any good if we keep cutting and pasting different information. But let's go right to step 3. Okay, so skip the range names. It's not that big of there's not that many cells to worry about. Step 3. I mean, you could do the range names, but you're gonna have to rename them every time. So. Okay, step 3 is unit input costs and output prices. Let's put any trial values for the input costs and output prices. All right, so that is right here. So let's put ones in here for now. Okay, so in B10 and C10, just put ones, and then also in the FGH area. Okay, so put ones in F10, G10, and H10. Okay, so these are our decision variable ranges. We're not going to color them in this example because it's easier to modify with different problems. So put ones in there and ones in there. We'll have solver determine those. All right. Let's put this modified sum product formula in B14. Okay, so step 4 in B14. Which is right there. The formula is equals sum product. B10 to C10, comma, B6 to C6. Where's that? There. Okay. So there's your sum product equals sum product. B10 to C10, comma, B6 to C6. All right, so this is how many inputs we need, and this is the cost of them for hospital 1. So this times this, plus this times this. Answer? All right, so we get 19 for now. And then if you want to copy that formula to apply it to hospital 2 and hospital 3, actually, I think we need to click on this formula one more time. And let's put dollar signs in the blue range. So it should be equals sum product, dollar sign. Okay, because we want that to stay the same. So equals sum product, $B, $10 to $C, $10, and then the other stuff is going to be B6 to C6. Okay, so just put dollar signs in front of the B and the 10, and in front of the C and the 10. All right, all the blue numbers and letters. Okay, then you can copy it down. Click on B14, grab the bottom right corner and drag it down like that. Okay, so that's it for, yep, hospital 2 and hospital 3. Okay, then let's do the same thing for the outputs. We're going to multiply those by their costs for each hospital. So in D14 equals sum product. F10 to H10. We're gonna dollar sign this in a second, comma F6 to H6. Okay, so this is the output. This is the number of outputs, and this is the cost. So this times this plus this times this plus this times this. But let's first put dollar signs in front of the blue stuff. Okay, so the fold is equals sum product $F $10 colon $H $10 comma F6 colon H6, and then close that print, or it's close the print. Okay, and then you can click on this one, D14, and grab the bottom right corner and drag it down like that, and that'll be the one for hospital 2 and hospital 3.
Wait, Professor, for the input cost, I got something different.
For which, the first one?
For like all three of them.
Oh, okay. So let's see. So is it equals sum product $B $10 to $C $10 comma B6 to C6?
Yeah.
And do you have ones here?
Oh, I see the problem. I didn't do sum product. Sorry.
Oh, okay. You did some. Okay. Okay. So did it work?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. So everyone else good so far? Okay. Okay. Last step, or a couple more steps before we solve this is, so what step? Step 5. Okay, so let's calculate the total input cost and output value. We'll put this formula in B19 and this formula in B22. Okay, so in B19, the formula is equals, so this is the VLOOKUP function equals VLOOKUP B3 comma A14 to B16 comma 2. All right, so equals, equals VLOOKUP, and then in the parentheses B3 comma A14 to B16 comma 2. So what this is going to do is it's going to go see what hospital we're on, which is in this case hospital 1, and then go to this range and find the one, which is here, and then the 2 means it's going to report the cell in column 2. So it finds the 1, matches it here, and then goes to column 2, so it's going to give us the 19. All right, so it looks up 1, finds 1, and we told it to report column 2, so it should give us a 19. It does. Okay, and then we'll do another VLOOKUP for our objective here in B22, which is equal to VLOOKUP B3 again, comma A14 to D16, comma 4. So this one, same idea, equals VLOOKUP B3, comma A14 to D16, comma 4. So what the same idea, it's going to find the hospital here, go find the 1, and then the 4 means it's going to give us the value in column 4. So here's the 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to give us 29. Yeah?
I have just like NA like
Oh, it didn't work?
no, it didn't work.
All right, so let's double check your formula. Equals, you're using the VLOOKUP formula, and then comma B3 is selecting the 1, and then comma
Yes.
A14 to D16, this whole,
Yes.
and then comma 4,
Yes.
and you hit enter, and it doesn't do it.
No, it doesn't do it.
Okay, well, I can look at it if you want to. You want to post it here?
Yes, I'll post it right now.
Yeah, post it in example
Oh
4.
wait, never mind. It worked.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it to work. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so everyone else good up to this point? Okay. Okay, so the next step is we're going to use Solver to determine if the 3 hospitals are efficient separately. So we've set up the model, and we're going to use Solver to specify the inputs and say what's the hospital value, and if it comes out to 1, that means in decimal terms it's 100% efficient. If it comes out to less than 1, that means it's something less, it's inefficient. Okay? So let's run Solver. If you click on data, all right. So everyone still has Solver right over here. It's been a few weeks since we used it, but under your data tab you should have Solver. Yeah, still there. Let's click on that. Okay, so our objective is I think it's already selected it, but if you choose the little button and select B22, that's it, and choose that. We're going to maximize that. Okay, we're changing the input cost range, and the input price range. Okay, so by changing variable cells, click on that, and let's choose first B10 to C10, and then comma, F10 to H10. So B10 to C10, comma, F10 to H10, which is going to correspond to your unit cost of inputs and unit prices of output. So we need both those ranges to change in Solver, and hit that. Okay, our constraint add, subject to constraints add button.
Hey, Professor, sorry, can you do that again for me, the first part?
Yeah. Okay, so the objectives B22. We're maximizing that, and then this part, I think we need to. Let me do it again. By changing variable cells, click on that button, and first choose B10 to C10. So select that, and then hit a comma, and select this other range, F10 to H10. So it's B10 to C10. Make sure you get that comma in there, F10 to H10. So this range and that range. I can hit that. Yeah?
Yep. And so for the top part, the
Uh-huh.
set objective, what do you have for that?
That's just B22.
Is that $B, $22?
Well, it does that when you select it, but you can like if you can type in B22 and it'll work, but
Oh,
when
all right.
like the default for this little solver box is it just puts dollar signs when you select it, so it doesn't make a difference. But um, like when you choose it, it just hit and you choose it, it'll leave the dollar signs there. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So subject to the constraints is click on add, and our first constraint is this one here. So we're going to say that the input costs have to be greater than or equal to the output values. So the cell reference, hit that, is B14 to B16. Choose that. Flip the sign around to greater than, okay, to match this. And the constraint, hit the button, is D14 to D16. All right, so we've specified that this is greater than or equal to this. So B14 to B16 is got to be greater than or equal to D14 to D16. And hit OK. All right, and the range names aren't going to come up because we didn't do any this time, because it's going to be easier, we'll see, to modify the model with different problems. But just double check that your ranges are the same. And then our other constraint is this one, which means that okay, so hit the add button, and then the cell reference is click on that. This one, B19. We're going to say that has to be equal to 1. So add constraint B19. All right, and then just change the middle thing to equals, and for the constraint you can just type in 1. All right, so all we told it here is B19 is going to be equal to 1. So make sure that's just B19, make sure that's the equal sign, and just type in a 1 here. For constraint, that's all you got to do, and hit OK. And then this should be checked, and then change your solving method if it's not the simplex LP. Okay, and I think that's it. So the objective is B22. You're going to maximize that. You're changing B10 to C10, comma, F10 to H10. Your constraints are B14 to B16 greater than or equal to D14 to D16. B19 equals 1. This is checked, and this is simplex. All right, so we're ready to solve this. Yeah. Okay. Let's hit solve. And if you get the results, hit OK. And so I think we should get a 1 here, which would determine that hospital 1 is efficient given these costs of inputs that we've chosen and these prices of outputs. So you can see that these met their mark. The input cost is equal to 1, and if we get a 1, that means 100% efficient, which is what we got. So did we get that? Did we get a 1 for hospital 1?
I got something totally different.
Okay. Sorry. I forgot to look. Oh, okay. What'd you get?
So for mine, the selected hospital output value is still 29.
Hmm. Okay. I can. You want to post yours so I can look at it?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
But the hospital input is still 1 though. It's pretty weird.
Okay. I'll take a look. Anyone else get something other than 1, or did most of us got 1? Okay.
You want me to post it on 4.8?
Yeah, if you can do that. Sure. Okay, so let me just do one more. So we've determined that, let's see, hospital one. Okay, so hospital one is efficient. All right. Okay, so we got 29 here. Let's see. Okay, all that looks good. Let's look at your solver. It looks like we got a problem with the decision variables. So this looks like it's, so it says B10 to C10, and this should say H. So yeah, here's the problem. If you change your variable cells, click on this, and so it should say B10 to
Wait,
C10.
click on what? My bad. I missed it.
Yeah, so go to the solver, click on data, and then open up the solver thing,
Yep.
and then let's fix your by changing variable cells. So click this button, and it should say B10 to C10, which you got, but then delete that part, and then after the comma, it should be F10 to H10. Okay, and then hit the button. So it should say B10 to C10, comma F10 to H10.
All right, hold on. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna delete it and redo the whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
So you said it should say B10 to C10.
B10 to C10, and then put a comma, and then after the comma, F10 to H10. So when you choose it and go back to the solver parameters, it should look like this one. And then everything else looks right, I think. So I think that should be a problem.
Okay.
Okay, let me see if it works. Yeah,
Now I got it.
that should,
Oh, all right. I did something different then, cause I got 0 now. Hold on.
yeah, it
So
works.
the changing variable should be B10 to C10, comma F10 to H10, right?
Yes, yes. This, yeah, B10 to C10, comma F10 to H10.
I have that, and I don't know why mine's just put 0 instead of 1.
Well, I did it with yours, and I got the right solution.
All right, it's all good.
So you got 0?
Yeah, mine says 0 now.
Oh. Well, can you try hitting formulas and then calculate now? See if that works.
No, that didn't.
No. Huh. Well,
It's all.
okay. Well, so it's all yours is all correct now after you fix that range. So I don't know because look
Right.
at this is your file or
Yeah, no.
this is your file and it worked on mine. I don't know.
All right.
I got the same thing when I was on Solver. It gave me 0 for the output value.
Huh, interesting. I do remember this one having some. Are you both using Macs? Maybe.
Yep.
Yes.
That's weird. Yeah, I do. For some reason, I recall this being a problem for this one, and I have no idea why, because I I always check them, and then I do it on my computer and it works. But then yeah, so if it doesn't, I don't know what the problem is. If there's some for this problem. There's some uh, discrepancy when you do it with a Mac for whatever reason. I don't know why, but don't worry about it. If just leave it as it is, and you'll still get full credit. Okay.
All right.
So let's see. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. So let's see if it works for the other ones, but it might not, because it seems like this. Is anyone using a Mac and got it to work? No. Well, there's not. Okay. Well, anyways, let's check if the other hospitals are efficient. But yeah, if it doesn't, if it gives you zero, just post what you got. You're still going to get full credit. So I don't know how to. Okay, let's determine steps 7 and 8 if hospitals 2 and then hospital 3 are efficient. So this is easy. Just go back to the model, and all you got to do. This is Tyler's. Close this. Okay, all you got to do is go to the selected hospital in B3 and just type in a 2. Enter. All right, so change that cell B3 to 2, and then just run the solver again, which will default to hospital 2. So just data solver, solve. Okay. And I think we should get 0.773, which would mean that this hospital is inefficient. Okay, did we get that? Or did the max get 0 again? Okay, so hospital,
Mine does 0.
you still got 0?
Yeah. Can you? Maybe I did something wrong. Can you show me the how you did the solver again?
The solver is the same as before. It's I think there's just something wrong with
Oh.
the yeah. We didn't do it. We didn't change anything in the solver because all we had to do was change that to a 2. And so the solver should be the same because we left it.
Yeah, mine's still 0.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, it should be 0.773, which would mean that hospital 2 is not efficient. And okay, so then let's do the final thing for hospital. Check hospital 3. So just change selected hospital. In B3, type in a 3. Enter. Okay, so now we're on hospital 3, and just run the solver again. Don't change anything. All right, and so we get that hospital 3 is a 1. We should get that, I think, and that means that hospital 1 is efficient, or 3 is efficient. So hospital 1 and 3 are 100% efficient, meaning that all their inputs get translated into outputs. There's no loss. And hospital 2 was a little bit inefficient. It was only like 77% or something efficient. Okay. Okay, so we finished the main model, but we're going to go ahead and do some extra ones that are going to, if we finish it, it's going to be part of the extra credit. So the best way to do this, because we didn't do the range names or the colors, is to save it, and then we'll rename it after we save it, and then do a different model. So this one, I'd recommend just save it somewhere, and you're done with this one. So this one goes here in example. Wasn't there one in here? Oh, did someone? Oh, okay. Yeah, so put it in example 48. So this one's done. This one goes in example 48. All right. And then we have extra credit, and there's 3 separate Excel files that go into the extra credit one. All right, so you're going to save it again if you do the extra credit 3 more times. Okay, so this one, save it, and whenever you get a chance, post it here in example 48. Okay, and so we got plenty of time, so we might as well do some of the extra credit, if not all of it. And here's example 48. We did that. And if you click on under it, extra credit DEA. Okay, so there's some bonus questions that go along and just show that it's a little bit easier just to modify it's pretty easy to modify the solution and just use it for different problems. So if you click on the extra credit DEA, all right, so if you do this, and we might do it all right now if we have time, but so there's 3 problems, the 3 extensions that go along with this type of problem. And so if you do this assignment and post the Excel files, then you'll get credit for a full assignment if you miss one, or if you happen to miss one in the future, this will count. Okay, so this will be due next Monday with the other one. And this will replace a 1 in your assignment grades if needed, or save 1 for later. So it can't hurt you. So number 1 is the Salem Board of Education wants to evaluate the efficiency of the town's 4 elementary schools. The 3 outputs of the schools are output 1 is average reading score, output 2 is average math score, output 3 is average self-esteem score. The inputs are input 1 is the average educational level of mothers, so highest grade completed, 12 is high school, 16 is college graduate, and so on for how many years are completed. Input 2 is number of parent visits to school per child, and input 3 is teacher to student ratio. All right, so the information for this one is in the file schools, and all we're going to do is use the same process and determine which schools, if any, are inefficient. Okay, so we'll see that I like doing these extensions because it's pretty easy to modify the original one and use it for a different problem. Okay, so okay, let's close this. All right, so first let's okay, so you say this is hospital DEA, you're done with example 4.8, and then let's resave it as a different name. So let's call it school. Let's click File, Save a Copy, and I'm going to call this I'm going to call this Schools DEA. All right, so make sure you save this somewhere that you know where it is so you can post it to the extra credit. All right, so let's just rename it. You don't have to call it exactly this, but I'm going to call it Schools DEA. All right, so we have a different file, and we're going to modify it for this one. All right, and so the first thing we'll do is okay, so under the extra credit section, if you open up the file for schools, that's for this one. And so you can see that it gives you the inputs and the outputs for each school. And rather than start from scratch, I think it's a lot easier to just copy and paste these inputs and outputs into the original file that we now save as schools, and then do the analysis there. So it's really not that, it's just kind of formatting it, and it's pretty easy to do. So if you go back to this one, which is now called Schools DEA, or whatever you renamed it as, okay, we need to add, or first let's change the name hospital to school. All right, so if you do this, if you hit Control F, that should give you this find and replace feature. And if you click on the replace option, let's find find what hospital and replace with school. So then all the titles for hospital will now be for this school model. All right, and then if you hit replace all and okay, that should do it. So see, now it's all these are all schools instead of hospitals. Okay, did that work?
Wait, Professor, do we have to make a different copy before we
Yeah,
replace?
so save the original one as the hospital DA and put that aside, and then open it up again and save a different copy for the schools one. And we're going to save it each time for the different extra credit questions. So you're gonna have 4 different names, different files. So you've saved this one as a separate title for schools, and you have the original one, the hospital, saved somewhere else, right?
Wait, how do you make a copy of it?
Oh, so just go to File and save a copy, and then just choose the name that you want to rename it as, and you'll have the original one is the hospital, and then the new one is as I call it, schools DEA.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So you got a new copy here. All right. And then was everyone able to get the replace the hospitals with school? Okay. So now we need to, because there's let's see. Okay, so there's 3 inputs, 3 outputs, and 4 schools. So let's add another input and let's add another school. So just, you don't have to move things around, just right here in D5. Let's call this input 3. Okay, and then just put any number in D10 for now, put a 1 in there. Okay, and then we need to add one more school. So right here in A9, let's call this school 4. Okay, so we added an input. We added a decision variable for the unit cost for that input, and then we added school 4. And then we're going to copy and paste the data from the other file into here and just run the model again. Actually, let's put school 4 right here too. All right, then back to this one. Okay, so I think the easiest thing to do is just to copy and paste the inputs and the outputs. So if you select B4 to D7, copy it, which is Control C, and go back here and just click on B6 and paste it, Control V. All right, so we pasted our inputs right there. Okay, and then we're going to paste the outputs as well. Okay, if you select the outputs, which is E4 to G7, and copy it, Control C. And just go ahead and put it right there. Click on F6 and Control V for paste. And also let's put school 4 right here. The name for E9. All right, so we've got the 4 schools and the inputs here. All right, and we've got the 4 schools and the outputs here. All right, that we copied and pasted. So everyone that's doing this, following along so far? Okay. All right. Now let's just modify the formulas and we'll run the solver again to determine if each of the 4 schools is efficient or inefficient. So first, let's modify this one. Okay, so click on the first B14, and it should, all we have to do is add the different range. So it should be, see how it's kind of easy to modify to see what you want to do is just add the third input. So it should be B10 equals $B, $10 to $D, $10, right? And then comma B6 to D6. Okay, so see how that's the appropriate ranges. So it should now be in cell B14 equals sum product, $B, $10 to $D, $10, comma B6 to D6. So we just changed the C's to D's. All right, and you can see that now it includes input 3. Okay, enter. And then if you corrected that formula, you can grab the bottom right corner of B14 and drag it down like that. Okay, so it should do that one for school 2, school 3, and school 4. All right, and then you can modify this. Let's see if this one needs to be modified. This one's good. It just needs to be moved down one more cell. All right, so we've already got the correct range here. But what you want to do is just go down to D16 and just drag it down one like that. Okay, so there's the sum product for school 4. Okay, if you want, you can put one more of these in here to specify the additional constraint, like that. Okay.
Wait, Professor, could I see the formula for input?
Yes. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so all you did was modify it to, instead of B to C for both ranges, it was B to D. So B10 to C, B10 to D10, comma B6 to C, to D6. All right, so see how it includes the third input now.
My numbers are a bit off for some reason.
Let's see. What do you have? The only thing, what's here in D10? Is that a 1?
Oh, never mind. I found a problem.
You got it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we've modified the input cost to include the third input, and we applied it to all the schools, and the output values formula was the same, was correct, but we had to apply it to school 4. So we got this for schools 1 through 4, and this for schools 1 through 4. Yeah, everyone good so far? Yeah. All right, so then selected school input cost, if you click on this, the only thing we got to change is it should say VLOOKUP equals VLOOKUP B3 A14 to B17. All right, that's the only modification. So change the B16 to B17, so it should be equals VLOOKUP B3 A14 to B17, comma 2. So it's still going to find the school. It's still going to go here and report the value in column 2, which in this case is going to be 0.560. Okay. And for this one, the objective, let's again just add the 4 schools, so change it to D17. All right, so equals VLOOKUP B3, comma A14 to D17, comma 4. So it's going to find the school, go here, and then give us the value in column number 4, which is 0.778. Yeah. Okay, so just modify that one to, all you gotta do is change the B16 to B17, and modify that one. All you gotta do is change the D16 to D17, and it should do it. Okay? Yeah, we good? Everyone good? Okay, so see, that's all we had to do to modify this one, and now we can just run the solver. So data solver. Let's fix a few things. So B22 is correct. We're going to maximize that, but we need to add the third input, which means that this should say, by changing variable styles $$B, $10 to $D, $10. That's all you got to do. So see how I just changed B10 to C10 to B10 to D10? So that's now a D. Everything else is the same. And I know that the one constraint needs to add the fourth school. So if you click on this one, the big constraint, and hit change, all we're going to do, see, is change this to B17. Okay, so cell reference is now B14 to B17. Yeah, and this should be D14 to D17. And that's it. Hit OK. Okay, so with the modifications, we got objective is B22. We're maximizing that. We're changing B10 to D10, comma F10 to H10. All right, so make sure you added that third input. And the new constraint here is B14 to B17 is greater than or equal to D14 to D17. So make sure you added that fourth school, and the rest of it's the same. B19 equals 1. That's checked, and that's simplex. Okay, so we got this set up. Okay, let's hit solve. And let's hit OK. So I guess we did actually school 3, but that's okay. All right, so if we're on school 3, I think we should get a 1, which means that school 3 is efficient. Okay. Did we get that? For those of us that aren't getting zeros?
Yes.
All right. So now all we have to do is check school 1, 2, and 4. All right. So let's, where it says selected school, change that to 1. Enter. And just run the solver again. Don't do any modifications. So we should get a 1 for school 1, which means that's efficient. All right. Let's check school 2. Just change B3 to 2. And that's all you got to do. Run the solver again. Data solver. Solve. Okay. School 2 is efficient. School 3 we already checked, right? Was efficient. And let's check school 4. School 4, change B3 to 4, and just run the solver again. Data solver solve. Okay. Looks like school 4 is slightly inefficient. Okay, so see how easy it is to run different entities once you get it all set up. All right, so we easily modified this with the different schools and checked schools 1 through 4. It looked like schools 1, 2, 3 were all 100% efficient, and then school 4 was, we got 0.949. Okay, so did we get that for school 4? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we finished problem 1 in the extra credit. We have 2 more if you want to do this. Shouldn't take too much longer, and it looks like we have time to finish it during class. Okay, so again, you're going to save this and save it again as another file to do the next problem. Okay, so save this. Okay, and make sure you have your files somewhere that you can post. So let me just clarify that you're going to post the hospital DEA file here, and then for the extra credit, if you post the extra credit, you're going to post the 3 new files for these 3 questions. So the first one you're done with, which is for the schools. So save that, and that's one of the ones you're going to post. Okay, so number 2 is going to be about banks. So number 2, extra credit question number 2, the Pine Valley Bank has 3 branches. We want to evaluate the efficiency of each, and we got input 1 is labor, 100 per month. Input 2 is space used in hundreds of square feet. Input 3 is supplies used per month in dollars. Output 1 is loan applications per month. Output 2 is deposits processed per month in thousands, and output 3 is checks processed per month in thousands. So we want to see if those inputs translate into outputs, or if we lose something in the process, which would mean that the bank is inefficient. Okay, so this is in the file banks, and let's do the same analysis here to see if any of the banks are inefficient. Okay, so you can go back to extra credit DEA, and we want this one for now, banks. Okay, and so here we have 3 inputs, 3 outputs, but we only have 3 banks. So we're going to have to eliminate one of the firms in the previous file and resave it. So let's first. All right, so this is your schools one. Save it and put it aside. All right, and then we're going to save another copy. So file, save a copy, and then let's call this one banks. Okay, I'm going to call this third copy banks DEA and hit save. All right, so we did the hospital one, we did the schools one, and now we're doing the banks one. Okay, so you should have if you're doing this, you should have a third copy, and this copy is called banks. Okay, now we're going to use our little replace function, and if you want to hit Control F, and let's hit the replace button and replace schools with banks, or school with bank, sorry. Okay, so find and replace find what school, replace with bank, and replace all. Okay, so now this should put the word bank in for school, and this is our bank model. And we only have 4 banks, so we can delete. If you want to select A9 to H9 and just hit the delete button on your keyboard. And we can get rid of this one. So if you want to select A17 to D17 and just hit the delete button on your keyboard. Okay, so that should be it. We got to copy and paste, but we got it set up for 3 inputs, 3 outputs, and 3 banks. Yeah. Okay, So now we're going to copy and paste the inputs for the banks into the file. So from the banks file, if you want to select input, if you want to select B4 to D6 and copy it, Control C. And we're going to paste it here. Click on B6 and hit Control V to paste. And then in the banks file, if you want to select the outputs, select E4 to G6, Control C. And click on there, F6, Control V to paste. Okay, so double check that you've got your numbers. So you got the file saved as banks. You've got 3 inputs, 3 banks, and double check your inputs as these and double check your outputs as these from the other file. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let me check this formula. That's good. That looks good. Okay, we're going to need to modify this one slightly just to get rid of the other blank cells. So if you want to change, so everything's, these ones are the same. Don't change these. These are the same. Don't change those. But you want to change slightly the formula in B19. So click on B19 and it should be equals VLOOKUP B3, comma A14 to B16. Okay, that's it. So it should be equals VLOOKUP B3 814 to B16, comma 2. Okay, so see how it selects the appropriate bank 1, 2, 3 range now. Okay, enter. And let's also change this one similarly to be D16. Okay, so this one, the formula in B22 equals VLOOKUP B3, comma A14 to D16, comma 4. Okay, enter. All right, and then we don't have a 4th bank, so let's just change. Let's start with in B3. Let's do bank 1. Just type in a 1 and hit enter. Okay, so all we got to do now is check and see if the banks are efficient running the solver. So everyone okay before we do the solver here? Okay, let's check if bank 1 is efficient. Data, solver. What do we got to change? So this is the same, this is the same, this is the same. We need to change this. Okay, so click on the constraint, the big one here, and hit add. Sorry. Click on that and go back and hit. So click on this constraint and click on change. All right, and we need to change the 17s to 16s. So it should say cell reference B14 to B16 and constraint D14 to D16. Okay, that's all you got to change. And hit OK. So the only modification was this constraint, which should now say subject to the constraints B14 to B16 is greater than or equal to D14 to D16. That's the only thing we changed. All right, solve. Okay. Bank 1, not efficient, 0.956. Okay, is that what we got? Yeah. All right, how about bank 2? Let's check bank 2, change this B3 to 2. and run the solver again. Data solver, solve. Okay, bank 2 is efficient, right? I think. And let's check bank 3. Just put a 3 there in B3 and run the solver one more time without changing anything. Data solver, solve. Okay, and bank 3 is also efficient. So I believe we got bank 1 is inefficient. Banks 2 and 3 are both 100% efficient. Okay. All right. Did we get that for those of us doing the bank exercise? All right. So we got one more to do. If you want to finish the extra credit, we're just about done with that. So this one's saved. Make sure this one's saved as banks or something. This is the second file that goes into the extra credit, and we have one more to do for the third question. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so in the extra credit, you're going to post the banks and the schools and the third file we're about to do. All right, third one, final one. Okay, we're going to evaluate the efficiency of the Port Charles Police Department, and 3 precincts to be evaluated are, here's the inputs and outputs. We only have 2 inputs and 2 outputs. Input 1, number of policemen, policewomen. Input 2, number of vehicles used, and output 1, number of patrol units responding to service requests, thousands per year, and output 2, number of convictions obtained each year in hundreds. So we're going to see if the inputs are turned into outputs, and see if which precincts are efficient using the police file, and that'll complete the exercise with extra credit. Okay, last one. If you click on the only one you haven't opened yet, which is police. All right, so you can see that we have 3 precincts, 2 inputs, and 2 outputs. So let's go back to the model we keep modifying. Okay, we're going to save it one more time. So make sure you got this one saved as the banks, and it's put aside somewhere. And one more time, file, save a copy, and let's call this police. Police DA, and save. All right, so this is our last version of this. All right, so this is technically our 4th copy of the same file. Okay, hospitals, schools, banks, and now police, and then we're done. All right, but you can see that the point of all this stuff is to see how easy it is to modify the original scenario. Okay, let's replace the bank word with police, or with precinct. So Control F, find and then replace bank with precinct. Spell that right. Precint, yeah. Okay, so replace bank with precinct, Precint, Prescint. Replace all. wrong. Oh, it should be spelled wrong. P-R-E-C-I-N-T. Priest. I-N-C. C-T. All right, so replace with precinct, which is P-R-E-C-I-N-C-T. Okay. Replace all. Okay. Okay, so now we've replaced the word bank with precinct. All right, now we're going to set it up because we only have 2 inputs and 2 outputs, and then we'll copy and paste those. So we've got 3 precincts, 2 inputs, 2 outputs. Okay, so let's delete output 3. You can select D5 to D10 and hit the delete button on your keyboard. You can select H5 to H10 and hit the delete button on your keyboard. Okay, so we've got the 3 precincts for each, and the 2 inputs and 2 outputs. And then, yeah, now let's copy and paste the data, and we're almost done. Okay, so if you want to copy and paste the inputs for the 3 precincts, input 1 and input 2, you can select from the police file, B4 to C6, Control C. All right, and we're going to paste it right there in the main model in B6, Control V to paste. All right, then let's copy and paste the outputs. Okay, in the police file, you can select D4 to C6 and Control C to copy. All right, and in here, in the main model, you're going to go to F6, Control V to paste. Okay, so just before we modify the formulas, just double check that you got the 3 precincts. These should be your inputs for the 2, and these should be your outputs. Okay, and what do we have to change? Let's see. We got to change this. Okay, so click on B14 and see we only have the 2 inputs. So let's change this from B10 to D10 to B10 to C10. And this too. Okay. So in B14, it should say equals sum product, $B, $10 to $C, $10, comma B6 to C6. Okay, so you just change the range from B to D to B to C for both arguments. Enter. And then grab the bottom right corner of B14 and drag it down like that to those ones. Okay, so that's for precinct 2 and precinct 3. Okay, and for D14, do the same thing, change it, get rid of the H's and change it to G, so it should be F10 to G10 and F6 to G6. Okay, so equals sum product F, $10 to $G, $10, comma F6 to G6. Enter, and then we're going to grab the bottom right corner of D14 and drag it down like that. Okay, that's for precinct 2 and precinct 3. Okay, let's double check B19. Actually, that looks good, right? That's what we want. Yeah. And what about this one? I think that one should be fine then too. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we don't have to change this one or this one, but we did change these ones because we only had two inputs as opposed to the previous time we only had two outputs. Yeah. Okay, so everyone good? That's still with us? Okay, if we made it this far, let's just check the precincts. Precinct 1, put a 1 in B3, and let's run the solver data. Solver. Okay, what are we going to change here? Let's see. This should be B10 to C10, right? And this should be F10 to G10. And is this right? B14 to B16? Yeah. All right, so that's all you got to change. So the only modification was by changing variable cells argument, which should now be B10 to C10, comma F10 to G10. All right. Let's solve it. Solve. Okay. And do we get the hospital 1? I mean hospital. Precinct 1 is efficient. Yeah. All right. Let's check precinct 2. Put a 2 in B3 and let's data solver. Solve. Okay. Hospital precinct 2 is inefficient, only about 89% efficient. And finally, hospital precinct 3. Okay, put a 3 in B3 and then run the solver again. Data solver. Solve. Okay. Precinct 3 is not efficient either. So we got, I got precinct 1 is efficient. Precinct 2 and precinct 3 both not efficient. Okay, is that what we got there? Okay, we're done. And if you've done this, you've finished the extra credit as well. So let me just tell you one more time where to put. So again, by next Monday, you can post the hospital file here. All right, like some people have already done. And then to get full credit for the extra credit, you got to post the 3 files we just did, which were the one for the schools, the one for the banks, and the one for the precincts. Okay. So just for example, 4.8, just the hospital one. For the extra credit, post the 3 separate files for the ones we just did. Okay. And both of those, all these, and the assignment drug production, example 4.8 are due Monday. And then if you want to do the extra credit, or if you've done it already, that's also due Monday. Okay. So 2 regular assignments and 1 possible extra credit for next Monday. And that's it. Okay. So I think that's it for this morning. And I think, yeah. So everyone have a good weekend. I'll see you next Monday. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Wait, Professor?
Yes.
Could I check my police one real quick? My values are off a little bit.
Sure. Did you post it?
Not. Hold on.
All right. Let's see what. Oh, there's looks like there's some. All right. So this is the police one. Okay. So we got the inputs here. We got the outputs here. This should be. So this is little out. See how this is like little, like the lineup is wrong. So if I delete this one and put this over here. Okay, so your unit cost of inputs and your unit prices of output should line up there. So that looks right now. Now let's see these. That looks good. Good. Yeah, this needs to be. So it looks. Okay, so first you see what I did here? Just can you line up the unit prices of outputs and have the cell there? Okay, and then let's change. Once we did that, we got to fix the formula to be equal sum product. That part E10 to F10. That should be F10 to G10, right? That's F10 to G10. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, so change your formula in D13 to be equals sum product $F $10 to $G $10, and then this part's right, F6 to G6. Yeah, and then enter, and then you're gonna apply that formula down. If you click on D13 and drag it down like that. Okay, that's the one for precinct 1, precinct 2, and precinct 3. And then this should be, let's see, that's good. And this needs to be, wait, this one was good? Yeah, that one's good. But this one, so also modify in B21, this should be equals VLOOKUP B3, A3 to D15. There we go. Okay, so your formula in B21 is equals VLOOKUP B3, comma A13 to D15, comma 4. Enter. Okay. Did you get all that?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So now let's try running the solver again. We'll do precinct 1. Okay. Oh, gotta fix that. Sorry. So data solver. What do we got here? B21 max. This should be, so we're on your solver parameters. This should be B10 to C10, right? Comma E10 to G10. Change that to a G. Good. All right, so see that? So it should be B10 to C10, comma E10 to G10. Or actually, this is, no, it should be F10 to G10. Whatever. All right, there we go. By changing variable cells B10 to C10, comma F10 to G10. Yeah, that's right. And then let's see if this one is right. B14 to B16. No. Okay, click on this one. So you got this part, right?
Yeah.
And then let's fix this constraint. Just click on that one to hit change. And it should be B. See, I think the reason why I use this off is because for some reason there's just like you deleted the space here, but it doesn't matter. So it should be, with the way you have it, B13 to B15. And then D13 to D15. See if that works. Okay, so cell reference B13 to B15 is greater than or equal to constraint D13 to D15. And then hit OK. And the rest of it looks good. So just make those two adjustments right there and right there. And let's try solving it. And we should get a 1 there for precinct 1.
Yeah.
All right, and let's check precinct 2. Should be something like 0.89 or 0.85. .88, 889, yeah, for precinct 2.
Yeah.
And then for precinct 3, it should give us this 0.833.
Yep.
All right, you're good.
All right. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, you're welcome. And you're good on the other ones?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fixed. So just post that to the extra credit. And then, all right. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Yep.